October 1944. The dense jungles of Leyte Island, Philippines, breathed humidity and hidden menace. Mist clung to the treetops like smoke, and every snapping twig echoed through the undergrowth. Sunlight barely pierced the thick canopy, casting shifting shadows that could hide a soldier, or a sniper's gaze. A lone American soldier moved with careful precision. His rifle was unremarkable, a mail-order firearm mocked by his peers for its lack of sophistication, but in his hands it became an extension of his senses. Every step was calculated. Every leaf brushed, every insect buzz, was noted. The jungle was alive, but not with peace, it pulsed with danger. Somewhere ahead, Japanese snipers had claimed dozens of lives in the past week. Men of steel nerves, waiting silently for the faintest movement. The soldier exhaled slowly, suppressing the rising tension. For days, 96 hours, would separate survival from slaughter. And he was about to prove that skill, patience, and instinct could outweigh reputation, equipment, and fear. His eyes scanned the shadows. One misstep could be his last. By late 1944, the Pacific War had reached a critical juncture. The Allies were pushing through the Philippines, seeking to reclaim territory occupied since 1942. Leyte, with its dense jungles, rugged terrain, and network of hidden trails, had become a proving ground for small unit engagements and sniper warfare. Japanese defenders had learned to exploit every inch of the terrain. Camouflage, patient observation, and knowledge of natural cover allowed them to inflict disproportionate casualties against advancing Allied forces. Sniper warfare in the Pacific was unlike that in Europe. In the open fields of Normandy, lines of sight were long, engagements measured in hundreds of meters, and positions could be detected by sound or movement. In the jungles, however, sight lines were fragmented. Leaves, vines, and uneven ground concealed enemy movement, while humidity, heat, and monsoon rains interfered with equipment. One misplaced step could betray a soldier's position, yet a skilled sniper could manipulate even this chaotic environment to lethal effect. American forces had trained snipers for years, but logistical constraints meant that not every unit had specialized rifles or optics. Many soldiers relied on standard-issue weapons or, as in this case, improvised or mail-order firearms adapted to local conditions. These rifles were often underestimated by peers or commanding officers, yet their utility lay in the operator's understanding of the weapon and the terrain. Accuracy, patience, and the ability to read the environment became far more valuable than caliber or sophistication. Japanese snipers, on the other hand, had developed their craft from years of jungle defense. They operated in small teams, used natural shadows and terrain features, and moved silently through vegetation. Psychological warfare was part of their method. The constant threat of hidden marksmen kept American units tense, slowed their advances, and forced commanders to allocate men to protective measures rather than offensive maneuvers. Reports from earlier engagements in the Philippines indicated that entire patrols could be decimated in minutes if they underestimated enemy sharpshooters. The soldier in question was assigned to a reconnaissance and support role, responsible for locating enemy positions and providing overwatch for advancing units. His mail-order rifle, though considered inferior by peers, was reliable under jungle conditions. Lightweight, simple to maintain, and accurate at moderate distances, it allowed him to maneuver quickly while maintaining readiness for sudden encounters. The rifle's simplicity, once mocked, would prove essential in the coming 96 hours of relentless engagements. Beyond equipment, survival depended on understanding human behavior. Japanese snipers were methodical. They studied patrol patterns, listened for repeated sounds, and exploited the predictable routines of advancing units. The American soldier would need to anticipate not only their location but their thought processes. Every movement he made, slight foot adjustment, shift in body weight, adjustment of the rifle's sight, could determine whether he became hunter or hunted. The jungle itself was an adversary. High humidity corroded metal, damp leaves muffled footsteps inconsistently, and sunlight flickered unpredictably through the canopy. Rain could wash away tracks, but it also hampered visibility, reduced effective range, and made gunpowder damp. Maintaining focus under these conditions required discipline, experience, and mental resilience. One miscalculation could allow a sniper to strike first, and in that environment, first strikes were almost always fatal. By the end of this first day, patrols had already lost men to unseen marksmen. Commanders noted the effectiveness of hidden Japanese snipers in after-action reports, emphasizing the urgent need for counter-sniper tactics. For the American soldier stepping forward, this meant understanding both the weapon in his hands and the mind of the enemy, combining patience, stealth, and audacity in equal measure. As the campaign on Leyte intensified, intelligence reports highlighted a worrying pattern. Japanese snipers were no longer sporadic threats, they were systematically targeting key personnel, patrol leaders, and reconnaissance teams. Each loss slowed the American advance, forcing units to adopt more cautious, methodical movements. These snipers were patient, trained to strike and then vanish into the jungle, leaving soldiers unnerved and commanders calculating risk with every step. The American forces had developed counter-sniper protocols, but the terrain complicated implementation. Scouts and spotters had to rely on subtle environmental cues, broken foliage, slight disturbances in leaf litter, faint reflections from optic lenses. Patrols moved in irregular patterns, staggered positions, and used decoy movements to lure snipers into revealing themselves. Yet, these methods were imperfect. Experienced enemy sharpshooters could read deception, detect inconsistency, and exploit every lapse in attention. The soldier's unit was part of a larger reconnaissance detachment tasked with mapping enemy positions and neutralizing high-threat targets. Mail-order rifles, though derided as unconventional, had practical advantages in this theater. They were lighter than standard sniper rifles, easier to maintain in humid conditions, and could be quickly adjusted in the field. The weapon's modest power and simplicity belied its potential when wielded by a disciplined marksman who understood wind, humidity, light angles, and distance estimation. Training for jungle sniper engagements emphasized patience, observation, and adaptation. Soldiers were taught to anticipate enemy movements, predict zones of concealment, and control breathing to reduce detection. The mental toll was considerable, hours spent motionless under oppressive heat, the constant buzz of insects, and the ever-present threat of an unseen bullet required resilience beyond physical conditioning. Each engagement demanded split-second judgment, accurate firing, and rapid relocation to avoid counter-sniper retaliation. Meanwhile, Japanese defensive doctrine leveraged these conditions to maximum effect. Snipers were embedded within natural camouflage, often alongside booby traps or coordinated with machine gun nests. They disrupted supply lines, sowed confusion, and forced overcautious advances. Commanders acknowledged that even a single skilled marksman could immobilize an entire platoon for hours, creating a strategic advantage disproportionate to their numbers. For the soldier in question, understanding these dynamics was as important as mastering his rifle. He observed, measured, and memorized patterns. The jungle's subtle signs, the way light reflected off leaves, the faintest shift in soil or moss, became his map. Each day, he recorded enemy positions, calculated distances, and prepared contingency plans for every probable scenario. His reputation among peers grew quietly. The rifle may have been mocked, but his effectiveness could not be ignored. By the third day of operations, several enemy sniper positions had been identified and neutralized, largely due to his precision and cautious tactics. Commanders noted the psychological impact of removing high-value targets in their after-action reports. Morale improved, patrols regained confidence, and operational tempo increased. Enemy forces, conversely, became more cautious, their usual audacity tempered by the loss of key sharpshooters. These engagements exemplified the intersection of human skill, technology, and environment. The mail-order rifle, simple yet reliable, was a tool, the jungle, an unpredictable adversary, and the soldier, a disciplined strategist and hunter. Together, these elements defined a lethal equation in which patience, awareness, and timing outweighed both numbers and conventional firepower. As night fell over Leyte, the soldier prepared for another day. His rifle rested beside him, meticulously cleaned and checked, every detail inspected. The enemy was still out there, hidden within shadows and foliage. And for the next 96 hours, the battlefield would test every ounce of his focus, courage, and precision. The first light of dawn filtered through the jungle canopy like scattered shards of glass. Moisture clung to every leaf, and the earthy smell of decomposing foliage filled the air. The soldier lay motionless, rifle cradled, eyes scanning the shifting shadows. Every twitch of a vine, every distant bird call, demanded attention. Somewhere within the dense undergrowth, a Japanese sniper waited, hidden and patient, unaware that his own hunter was equally vigilant. The mail-order rifle, once mocked for its simplicity, felt alive in his hands. Its weight was familiar, the trigger crisp, the sights aligned perfectly with his vision. Months of practice had honed his muscle memory, and now, in the oppressive jungle, that discipline would determine life or death. Movement flickered ahead, a flash of uniform, a glimpse of a scope barrel, nearly invisible among leaves. He exhaled slowly, lungs steady despite adrenaline. Calculating distance, adjusting for wind, and factoring in humidity, he waited. One misfire, one hesitation, and the hunter could become the hunted. The first shot cracked through the air, unervingly sharp in the thick canopy. The Japanese sniper fell, silent as the jungle absorbed the sound. Heart pounding, the soldier scanned for others. Within minutes, another appeared, stalking from a different angle, testing the perimeter. Patience became survival. Each engagement required stillness, calm, and precise timing. Hours stretched like days. The soldier moved with the jungle, shifting only when necessary, relocating after every shot to avoid detection. Rain began, drumming on leaves and masking movement, but complicating visibility. Yet, each calculated relocation brought him closer to neutralizing the next threat. One by one, snipers were eliminated, each kill a demonstration of discipline and the rifle's reliability under harsh conditions. By the end of the first 24 hours, 3 enemy sharpshooters had fallen. The unit, initially skeptical of the weapon and the soldier's approach, began to recognize the lethal efficiency of precision over firepower. Every shot was measured, every decision deliberate, and the jungle that had once concealed death now became a tool for survival and dominance. As dusk approached, the soldier noted positions of remaining threats, preparing for another long night of vigilance. Shadows shifted, and he knew the enemy had begun to anticipate his methods. The battle had entered a psychological stage, each sniper aware that a single mistake could be fatal, each movement weighed against an invisible opponent. Nightfall descended like a velvet curtain over the Leyte jungle, and with it came silence that was almost unbearable. The soldier remained still, pressed against the mossy trunk of a kapok tree, eyes straining through the scope. Rain had begun to soak the undergrowth, dripping from leaves onto the rifle barrel, creating a rhythm that threatened to mask enemy movement, or his own. Every sound, every shadow, demanded scrutiny. Somewhere in the dense foliage, another sniper waited. Unlike the first day's encounters, these remaining opponents were skilled, patient, and aware that American units were beginning to counteract their strategies. The soldier's mail-order rifle, though simple, performed flawlessly under extreme conditions. Its lightweight design allowed him to move swiftly, while its reliable accuracy meant that even at 200 meters, a single shot could eliminate a threat. He observed for hours. A faint rustle, a subtle change in the canopy, then the glint of a scope. He held his breath, aligning the sights, accounting for rain, wind, and distance. The shot rang out, echoing through the jungle, and another enemy sniper fell. The hours merged into one relentless stretch of tension. Each engagement demanded calculation, when to move, when to shoot, when to remain invisible. Exhaustion clawed at the soldier's body, but mental focus sharpened. By the second day, 6 snipers had been neutralized. Each kill sent shockwaves through the enemy ranks, forcing them to rethink positions and tactics. The jungle, once a haven for the Japanese marksman, had become a lethal maze for anyone who underestimated this disciplined American sniper. By the third day, the soldier's reputation was no longer confined to whispers. Unit leaders began to adjust strategies based on his actions, sending reconnaissance patrols more boldly while relying on his precision to reduce risk. Each sniper eliminated was not only a tactical victory but a psychological blow. Enemy movement slowed, hesitation crept into their patrols, and fear, unseen but palpable, spread through their lines. On the fourth day, only 2 enemy sharpshooters remained. The soldier's patience was absolute. He calculated their positions from previous encounters, adjusted for wind and light, and used natural cover with expert precision. When the final shots were fired, the total count reached 11 Japanese snipers removed in 96 hours. The jungle, once teeming with lethal unseen adversaries, was silent. The climax of this operation was not marked by explosions or a sprawling battle. It was a quiet, relentless demonstration of discipline, skill, and ingenuity. A soldier, armed with a weapon many had mocked, had turned the jungle into a proving ground for precision, patience, and tactical mastery. And in doing so, he had redefined what it meant to be a sniper in one of the harshest theaters of World War II. The battlefield, though devoid of immediate action, was changed. Enemy forces re-evaluated their tactics. Allied units moved with newfound confidence. And the soldier, exhausted but unbroken, prepared to emerge from the jungle, not merely as a survivor, but as a legend forged through 96 hours of unwavering focus and deadly precision. The dense jungle finally fell silent. The echoes of rifle shots had faded, leaving only the steady dripping of rain from the canopy above. The soldier emerged from his concealed positions, weary and soaked, yet unbroken. 11 Japanese snipers had been eliminated in just 96 hours, a feat that stunned both his unit and commanding officers. What had begun as skepticism toward a mail-order rifle ended in recognition of extraordinary skill, discipline, and composure under relentless pressure. Commanders filed detailed reports on the operation. They noted that the soldier's approach, meticulous observation, patient tracking, and precise engagement, had not only neutralized threats but also disrupted enemy morale. Japanese patrols, once confident in their ability to ambush American forces, began altering their movement patterns, spreading their units thinner, and avoiding high-risk areas altogether. The ripple effect of his actions extended far beyond immediate kills. Equipment logs highlighted the performance of the mail-order rifle under harsh jungle conditions. Lightweight and mechanically simple, it functioned reliably despite humidity, rain, and constant handling. Its very simplicity became an advantage: no complex mechanisms to jam, easy maintenance in the field, and swift adjustments for varied distances. Once derided by peers, it had proven its worth repeatedly under the most unforgiving circumstances. Allied intelligence officers analyzed enemy losses and movements in the days following the operation. Reports indicated that these 11 snipers represented a significant portion of the local Japanese marksmen. Their removal not only protected advancing units but also allowed reconnaissance and supply patrols to operate with increased freedom. Strategically, the operation reinforced the value of precision strikes and the role of individual skill in larger combat objectives. Among the unit, the soldier's reputation grew quietly. Peers who had once mocked the rifle and doubted his capability now spoke in hushed tones of his composure and lethal accuracy. Stories of his engagements circulated in after-action debriefs, emphasizing not only the number of kills but the calculated patience, environmental awareness, and psychological endurance required to achieve them. The jungle, once a domain of fear and uncertainty, had been tamed by discipline and strategy. Beyond tactical and operational outcomes, the psychological impact was profound. Soldiers observed that courage, patience, and careful planning could compensate for what others might perceive as inferior equipment. The lesson was clear: effectiveness in warfare depended as much on human decision-making, observation, and adaptability as on firepower or mechanical sophistication. By the end of the first 24 hours after the final engagement, the unit had regained confidence in jungle operations. Patrols moved more decisively, reconnaissance was more thorough, and the coordination between infantry and sharpshooters improved. Commanders began integrating the lessons of this operation into training manuals, emphasizing stealth, observation, and patience over sheer volume of fire. The 96-hour engagement left an indelible mark on both soldiers and commanders. It demonstrated that in the complex, unpredictable environment of the Pacific jungles, a single skilled marksman, equipped with a reliable rifle and unyielding focus, could alter the tactical landscape, safeguard lives, and shape the conduct of subsequent operations. The mail-order rifle, once mocked, had become a symbol of ingenuity, adaptability, and lethal precision. The broader implications of the operation began to ripple through the Allied forces. Reports from Leyte noted that enemy snipers, once a constant and deadly threat, were now markedly cautious. The removal of 11 highly trained marksmen in such a short period forced Japanese units to rethink their defensive strategies. Patrols slowed, positions were abandoned, and reconnaissance teams operated with greater freedom. What had been a campaign hindered by invisible threats became one where confidence and initiative were restored. Within the American ranks, the soldiers' methodical approach became a model for training. Observers emphasized his patience, adaptability, and environmental awareness. Manuals and field guides began highlighting techniques he had employed instinctively: calculated observation of foliage movement, silent relocation between shots, and precise engagement under extreme pressure. These lessons were not abstract, they were field-tested, verifiable, and immediately applicable to other jungle operations across the Pacific Theater. The mail-order rifle, previously derided, was reassessed by engineers and ordnance officers. Its simple design allowed for rapid field maintenance, durability in high humidity, and exceptional accuracy when paired with a disciplined marksman. Weapon designers began considering the importance of operator skill over complexity, reinforcing that a well-understood, reliable tool could outperform advanced, temperamental hardware under extreme conditions. Psychologically, the soldier's accomplishment had a profound effect on his peers. Confidence grew in patrols, units moved with less hesitation, and the principle of patience over haste was reinforced. Soldiers observed that effectiveness in combat could stem from discipline, anticipation, and precise execution rather than sheer firepower or advanced weaponry. Morale improved, not through propaganda, but through demonstration, seeing skill, ingenuity, and calm decisiveness in action restored belief in the value of individual contribution. For Japanese forces, the 96-hour sniper engagement was a costly lesson. Losses were not only material but strategic. Experienced sharpshooters were irreplaceable, their knowledge of terrain, camouflage, and stealth critical to defensive operations. Their elimination disrupted patrol efficiency and slowed offensive operations. Commanders had to redistribute less experienced soldiers to cover gaps, reducing overall effectiveness and exposing additional vulnerabilities in the jungle. The operation also highlighted the evolving nature of modern warfare in the Pacific. Jungle combat demanded more than brute force, it required strategy, observation, and adaptability. One soldier, armed with a simple rifle and unmatched patience, had demonstrated the enduring power of human skill. His ability to read the environment, anticipate enemy behavior, and execute flawlessly under duress had reshaped the tactical situation for his unit and beyond. By the conclusion of the 96 hours, the battlefield itself had been transformed. What had begun as a series of isolated, dangerous engagements became a case study in precision, endurance, and tactical intelligence. Reports circulated through Allied command structures emphasizing the lessons learned, that patience and calculated action could outweigh numbers, that a disciplined soldier could tip the balance of localized engagements, and that human ingenuity remained the most formidable weapon in warfare. The jungle, once a formidable adversary of dense foliage, hidden paths, and lethal snipers, had become a stage for mastery. And the soldier, whose weapon had once been dismissed as a mail-order rifle, emerged not only as a survivor but as a symbol of skill, discipline, and tactical ingenuity in the Pacific Theater. The jungle of Leyte was unforgiving. It demanded vigilance, patience, and resilience. In its shadows, one soldier had faced what others feared, a relentless enemy hidden in the foliage, silent and deadly. His rifle had been mocked, his approach questioned, yet through discipline, observation, and instinct, he transformed an unassuming weapon into an instrument of precision and survival. This operation was more than a tally of 11 snipers eliminated in 96 hours. It was a testament to human skill and adaptability. Technology alone, no matter how advanced, cannot replace focus, decision-making, and the ability to read both environment and enemy. The soldier's success illustrated a timeless principle of warfare: the mind, sharpened by patience and experience, often outweighs firepower or reputation. The impact extended beyond immediate tactical victories. His actions reshaped the behavior of enemy forces, boosted morale among his peers, and influenced the development of training practices. Field manuals would later reflect lessons drawn from his engagement: the value of patience, meticulous observation, and the synergy of skill and equipment. The mail-order rifle became more than a tool, it became a symbol of ingenuity and adaptability. Ultimately, this story underscores the human dimension of warfare. History often remembers battles, numbers, and machinery, but it is the decisions, instincts, and courage of individuals that shape outcomes. In the oppressive heat, constant threat, and chaos of jungle combat, one soldier's calm, measured response to extreme pressure turned ridicule into respect, danger into survival, and ordinary equipment into extraordinary results. Leyte's jungles, once a realm of unseen threats, now echo the lesson that courage, patience, and skill can redefine possibility. And in that truth lies a reminder that, even amidst the machinery of war, human ingenuity remains the ultimate force, capable of turning the tide against overwhelming odds.